Good evening. My name is Dr. Perry Lyle. I'm Professor of Criminal Justice at Columbia College of Missouri. And this evening, I'd like to continue our lecture series on the ladder of inference. Now, as we know from our previous discussions, that the ladder of inference is a metaphor that describes our actions and our assumptions that we take based on observable data that's collected at the bottom of the rock. From that data, we attach certain meanings and assumptions. They can be based on our experience, what we're observing at the time. They can be based on implicit bias that we have within all of us. And from that, we make certain assumptions. And those assumptions can be untested and quite erroneous, especially when we climb up the ladder too quickly and we make snap decisions. Now, some of those decisions are mundane and have little consequences. Others not so much so. Now, taking the case of a supervisor who calls out an employee for conduct, and from the observable data, that supervisor makes certain inferences based on that information. And that information, untested and unverified and limited, may be erroneous. And when that occurs, the consequences of actions that supervisor may take can be quite embarrassing for the person who made the erroneous assumptions about the employee. It can strain relationships between employee and employer. It can strain relationships in families, co-workers, of course, and friends when we engaged in jumping up the ladder and climbing up it too quick and taking actions based on untested and unproven information. Now, those consequences are very much more severe in far-reaching business decisions, and also for our law enforcement officers who must and often do make split-second decisions based on what they're observing at the time, and they take certain actions. Now, this evening, let's take the case of the shooting death of Amando Diallo, a West African immigrant, Guinean, who had come to New York and resided in the Bronx area for approximately a year and a half. Now, on the fateful night of February 4th, 1999, 2 decades ago, that individual, from what we know from data collected at the time, had stepped out onto his front porch, probably for no other purpose than to collect some fresh air. Now, on Diallo's part, he was causing no actions to cause attention to himself. Minding his own business, may have, in fact, been daydreaming. We just don't know. Now, for 4 officers that had rounded the corner, driving slowly down the street, they saw Diallo standing on the front porch in a dimly lit setting. And they were out and were surveying the area, supposedly for a suspect who had committed a rape in the area, and he too was a black male individual. Now, for Diallo's part, we can consider a situation like we would in a video camera. We attach no meanings. The video camera catches only scenes, nothing more, and attaches no meaning. And the same thing would apply to the 4 street crimes officers that were cruising down the street who first observed Diallo. Now, here's where it gets tricky. The officers decide to approach Diallo, and in their assumptions that they're making right from the spot, they decide to aggressively question Diallo for no other reasons than they observe him on the front porch of his apartment. Now, some would call that aggressive interrogation jacking a person up on street language, but we won't go there because I don't want to make any unwarranted assumptions on their intent and purposes, other than the fact that they were looking at people in the area for an alleged or a committed rape. Now, for Diallo's part, he's probably making the assumption as he sees four people cruising in the car pulling up in front of him that there's no good outcome for four white people that are coming out of the car. Now, for the police officers, they probably probably haven't stopped to pause that maybe this individual would not understand their commands as they start to identify themselves and ask the individual to freeze and stand there and wait for further instructions. For Diallo's part, he's probably panicking a little bit at this point in time, the best that we can determine from the facts of the case, and he reaches into his pocket to retrieve his wallet. Now, the officers surely did not notice that his weapon that they're making the assumption of was a wallet. Now, in the second wrong, this is where people begin to attach meanings from what they observe. The meaning that the ad is consistent with their own beliefs about the world, their beliefs in turn about who they are, drawn on past experiences and their cultural experiences. The officers attach the meaning of suspicious and threatening to what they observed from Diallo. Diallo may have observed that the officers looked aggressive, threatening as they approached, that they may be thugs about ready to rob him. Like witnesses in a car accident, people often make up information to fill in the gaps so that they can create plausible explanations for what's occurring in front of them at the time. Now, when the officers reach the third wrong, it's where they make assumptions and judgments of the observable data. It is clear from this case that the assumptions made by both Diallo and the officers were erroneous. Diallo must have assumed that the officers' intentions were not good. He has been in this country for a little over a year, speaks very little English, and doesn't understand our customs. The officers assume Diallo is engaged in a burglary or is a suspect for another crime. When one of the officers asked Diallo to show his hands and other similar commands, he assumes Diallo understands English. The officers assume Diallo is armed and reaching for a gun when he reaches in for his wallet in the dimly lit porch where he was standing. Diallo, for his part, probably panicked somewhat, and his actions the officers considered to be threatening to them. Instead of clearing up the misunderstandings of this action that precipitated in a rapid series of other actions, or blunders, if you will, they're based on a set of faulty assumptions and beliefs. And this is what happened next. The first officer, hearing no response from Diallo to his verbal commands and seeing something black come out of his pocket, opened fire. The second officer, believing Diallo was armed and dangerous, jumped back in his self-defense mode and was convinced that Diallo, not the first officer, had fired the shot. The first and third officers, seeing the second officer jump back, believed that Diallo had shot him. The first officer retreated, still firing, and the third officer reported later that he saw Diallo crouch down behind the wall in the vestibule of the door, where the vestibule of the door was located, with his hand extended and something black in it. The third officer would later report that he was convinced that he saw a gun in Diallo's hand. And this rapid fire of events, you can see how all these decisions culminated into something very deadly. For the four officers, they had shot and killed an unarmed man. Diallo lost his life that evening, causing no harm or no focus to himself. As an outcome of this particular case, the four officers were charged with murder with reckless endangerment. They would be later exonerated from the charges that they had levied on them in a jury trial. Diallo's family sued for $61 million and ultimately settled for approximately $3.5 million for the loss of their loved one. Now, it's important to know that Diallo, for his part, had no contacts with the police, was a street urchin, was out selling things on the street to make a living, had no criminal record and no contacts with the police. From all accounts, an upstanding new citizen or new immigrant to the United States. The 4 officers obviously sparked nationwide protest, riots in the New York area, and actually Bruce Springsteen, a popular singer, wrote a song in honor of Armando Diallo for his tragic loss. These are some of the consequences that can happen. We can go from, like I said at the beginning of this video, we can go from the mundane to the very serious situations that can develop out of making rapid, quick decisions based on limited data or erroneous, untested data that we collect at the bottom of the rung. It's important for us always to remember that at some point in time when we're doing this, we can train ourselves to pause and reflect a bit and stop and think about, is this data, is this information, are the actions that I'm taking, are my assumptions correct? Do I need to pause and consider alternative information and gather more information before I take that final action? This is the lesson that we should learn from Armando Diallo on February the 4th, 1999. Thank you and good evening.